off with college football playoff round 2, a little overview of that and thoughts on the games that occur. A lot of surprises, I'd say, from my point of view at least. Andrew, what do you overall just
Yeah.
of a round 2? Give me your thoughts
I
on it.
mean, I was kind of surprised with how the top seeds came out, but for the most part, I'll just wait till we get into each game breakdown. But I'd agree, it was a lot of surprises. Yeah,
All right, starting off with the New Year's Eve game, Boise State, Penn State. Definitely one that I was looking at going into it just because Penn State, um, not necessarily as proven as a team from what I thought, and Boise State definitely the big question mark going into this playoffs just because of the strength of schedule they have played leading into the playoffs, and I think that was the outcome was as expected. Andrew, I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
yeah, like you said, Charlie. I mean, going into this game, we had questions about Penn State whether they were going to show up in big games. It's kind of been an issue for James Franklin throughout his entire coaching career whether the Nittany Lions would show up to play in these big time matchups. And like you said, Boise State, we had a lot of question marks. Like they were kind of the team to watch. I mean, they got the first round bye that a lot of people didn't agree with, Charlie. But and you obviously have Ashton Genty, Heisman runner-up. There was a lot of questions on whether he'd break Barry Sanders' record or not, and he didn't. And that's a lot. There should be a lot of credit given to Penn State in this game. Their defense, they showed up to play. They shut down Genty. Their rushing attack. I mean, and we can get into even on the other side of the ball on Penn State's offense. I mean, the rushing attack was as advertised. Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, kind of been there all year, and they
Hmm.
showed up again, the big time moment.
Yeah, really big. Kind of a not necessarily a statement win, but just a big win for Penn State as they get a nice semifinal spot that they have not seen. They haven't made the playoffs before, have they? Before this
They
year.
haven't.
So yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. Yeah, Boise State going into it, they had a big target on their back just because they were very much of an outlier coming into the playoffs. And Penn State attacked their very strength, and that is Ashton Genty, and it it worked to their advantage. Even James Franklin going into the game saw like an interview. I think it was on Game Day where he was talking about just how much they had to hone in like during practice that week on how to attack Ashton Genty and how to go up against him, and they definitely stopped him as it was definitely Ashton Genty's worst game all year, and that's probably a testament to the best defense they've faced for all year. And yeah, Penn State didn't have much trouble with Boise State. just uh, just to put it that way. Any
No,
other key
I was
factors in
gonna
that one?
harp on that last point you made, Charlie, about Ashton Genty going into that game and how he fared in this matchup. He went for 104 yards, fell a little bit around. I think it was 30 yards short, 20 to 30 yards short of the record. So he had two fumbles throughout the game.
Mm,
Which this was we knew coming in that Boise State was gonna Boise State, my fault. Penn State was gonna come in and they were gonna hone in on Ashton Genty and shut him down and try to force Madsen into throwing the ball, and they did. I mean, Madsen threw 35 passing attempts. He threw for 304 yards, but he also had three picks on the
yeah.
game. So I think that was probably the key factor of the night. Those turnovers by Madsen, and yeah, just great game planning by the Nittany Lions in this one.
Yeah, they definitely handled Genty well, and it did, like you said, force that passing game to evolve. And they didn't have much going on for them in that passing game. A lot of credit due to that Penn State defense, I think. Um, I mean, they have been that strong suit all year for Penn State, and they come through again. Drew Aller also having a pretty solid game, and like you said, that running back room was just as solid as can be. And Penn State rolls through Boise State and makes her way to the semifinals. Looking on to the next game, Texas Arizona State. I kind of jumped the gun earlier because I was excited to talk about this game. Surprisingly, I was not looking into this game very much. I thought similar to Boise State, Penn State, it was not going to be as competitive as it ended up being. But this is definitely the most entertaining game of the four. And Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Charlie, I would like you said, I wasn't really looking for this one to be a game to watch, but I think this game, how it started off, was very interesting, and I didn't make it in the last matchup, but the way that the teams with the buys came out versus to how the teams who had played in the first round came out were two different stories. I mean, just to briefly go back, Penn State had four in the first quarter. Penn State had 14 points, Boise State zero. But Penn State came out hot, and kind of in this one, the team who came out in the first round, Texas, came out 14 points. Arizona State three. Texas kind of jumped on them early a little bit, and kind of it was interesting to see how Arizona State's offense responded to that type of defense. I don't think they really were tested like in the Big 12. Uh, the Big 12's defense were not as comparable to Texas
Mm,
defense,
right.
and it was interesting to see how they progressively adjusted throughout the game. And I think the man of the night was definitely Scatterboo. I mean, he went 30 carries, 143 yards. He even had a passing touchdown as a running back. So I mean, that was an electric play too, Joel. I don't know if you saw
It
that
really
one,
was.
but and there's a lot to say on the Texas side. I mean, Quinn Ewers over 300 yards passing, three touchdowns on the night. Really relied on Matthew Golden. He went for 149 yards receiving. And it was kind of a different story compared to the Clemson game, Charlie. I mean, Texas, their rushing attack was electric against Clemson. Clemson could not stop them on the ground. Arizona State found a way to stop them. I mean, I think they had like 50 rushing yards, nothing significant
Mm.
compared to Clemson. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, this was definitely just a surprising game to watch for me. Like you said, the start of this game, Texas kind of punched them in the mouth early. Arizona State just didn't look very prepared coming into this game. Then once they found their footing, their defense started making big plays, and obviously Cam Scatterboo came to life. And I didn't really believe him when he saying in his conference game that, or not that I believed him. I kind of thought it was funny when he said he didn't get his respect. He was like the best running back in the country, and he proved to be a well-rounded running back to say the least. He kind of carried his team back into this game, and you got to give credit to that Arizona State quarterback. He played a phenomenal game as well. But I just thought it was just devastating how they lost, and even Burt Auburn giving them that many chances single-handedly.
Goodness. Did you
Um,
see how he was like having that one on one moment with Steve Sarkisian?
yeah, yeah.
That was just to go and miss the field goal.
I saw some Arizona State trainers it was like a video of Burt Auburn warming up on the sideline, and their trainers like walked through his warm up or something, and everyone in the comments was like they're icing him before the like he gets out or something. I thought it was hilarious. But still, even with Arizona State getting that many opportunities and they still fall
They,
short like they did, that 4th and 13 call will
yes.
always or forever haunt them because I
I was
thought
about.
going into that play that they had it sealed, but
Did they
Quinn
blitz
Ewers.
Charlie on 4th and 13? I
Yeah, and
swear
it
they
doesn't look like they
blitzed.
had a safety back, and they ran or Texas looked like they ran a seam beater, and Quinn Ewers delivered a strike as he does. He's just proven he's a veteran quarterback in this league, and that he is meant to be. And he's proven, and I don't know. That was just a great game to watch, and I was really sad to see Arizona State go out like they did. But any last thoughts on that one?
I mean, not many last thoughts. I mean, I kind of went over everything I wanted to talk about, but we should go over briefly or a second the overtime period. I know we touched on that 4th and 13,
Mm.
but it looked like Arizona State kind of had that in the bag, especially like before the 4th and 13. They
Oh
looked
yeah, they had so much momentum going into it.
so much momentum, and it was back to back plays. I mean, Texas beat them on that seam route you said, and then the very first play on the next possession, Texas 25-yard touchdown. So
Sucked the life out of
uh,
Arizona State.
it and especially this game had so many different shifts and momentum. It just kind of seemed to be symbolic for how the game went, how it
Right.
ended.
Yeah, that was one to watch. And following that game was a game going into it was very anticipated, at least from me. Very just a lot of things leading up to this game, and just I was getting my bucket of popcorn ready. Just I was ready to watch this fight. But it ended up not being a game at all, actually. Ohio State 41-21, and it was not that close the entire game. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Oh goodness, there's a lot of thoughts. Kind of like how the first two first round matchups went. Ohio State jumped on Oregon early. I mean, and when I say jumped on, they pounced on them.
Yeah,
It
they
was pretty
murdered them.
bad, Charlotte.
It was
It
hard to
was,
watch.
I think it was 34. Correct me if I'm wrong. I swear it was like 34 nothing at
Yeah,
one point. 34
it
straight
was, yeah,
unanswered.
34-0 right before the half, and then Oregon got like a
Like
touchdown
that
and
and the
two or
2 point
something.
conversion. Yeah, Oregon's offense, who we'd seen been electric all year. I mean, even like in their first matchup, Oregon's offense was pretty successful moving the ball against Ohio State's defense, and like coming off of the Big Ten championship game, they had they or excuse me, Oregon's offense was pretty dominant against Penn State's defense for the most part, and it's also we should kind of highlight it's not all on Oregon's offense because their defense really also didn't help
Yeah,
them out. I mean, Jeremiah Smith went crazy.
yeah.
I mean, he ended the game with 187 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He was a man amongst
You,
boys in that game.
you, you can't win a game when you have your opposing team's wide receiver one going for nearly 200 receiving yards. You also can't win a game when your rushing attack, your rushing yards on the game is a cumulative of negative and 23 rushing yards. So, I mean, Charlie, what are your thoughts?
I don't have much thoughts on this, honestly. I'm more sad than anything, not just because Ohio State won, just because I was really excited to see like a Georgia Oklahoma type, like 2017 Georgia Oklahoma type Rose Bowl or something like that, where it was just like a all out brawl going into overtime. But no, this was just the most boring game to watch, and I'm just honestly, to Oregon's defense, they, like you said, Jeremiah Smith is wide receiver one, but you have Emeka I don't even know how to say his last name, but they have so many
Ibuka.
like weapons on
Yeah.
that side of the ball. Ooh, side of the ball. Sorry.
Quinshawn Judkins, Trayvon
Yeah,
Henderson.
Trayvon Henderson. Like that running back room is stacked. That wide receiver room is stacked. Their offensive line is ridiculous. I mean, Ohio State they've looked fraudulent like the towards the end of the season, but they're starting to play ball at the exact right time. And Ryan Day is,
And we
even as we were harping on him last podcast about how he cannot win big games, he has proven back to back now that he wants to keep his job as a Buckeye, and he's making a case for it. I'm really
and
excited
we
for
can
Texas Ohio State.
and we can talk about this later when we preview the semifinal matchups and our later prompt on the bracket setup. But Ohio State, one may argue that while losing to your rival Michigan is devastating, but it kind of it served as what's the word I'm looking for? It really shifted momentum. It gave them the right punch in the mouth that you
Mm,
really needed going right before going into the playoffs. I mean, Oregon, it was a perfect battle test. That's what I'm looking for. For Ohio State to respond to that type of adversity, losing to your rival at home, the flag plane, all that drama surrounding their team
mm.
going into the playoffs, it was very beneficial for them, Charlie. I mean, we saw them in the Tennessee matchup. They kind of dominated that game from start to finish.
They did.
This game, similar story, start to finish, and that's kind of it's a different Ohio State team that we haven't seen all year. That's been this type of dominance. So I'm very excited to see how they do in the next round.
Yeah, very, very dominating fashion that Ohio State finished that game in. And the last game we're going to talk about is Notre Dame, Georgia. I was really excited about this game coming into it, and seeing all that stuff happen in New Orleans was just heartbreaking to see. And I'm actually surprised they played that game in New Orleans and as fast as they did. But I'm glad
Yeah,
that
I heard
you get
security was at an all time high, and that was really tragic to see.
really was.
And did you see Charlie? Like tickets were like $13. It's kind of sad how scared people were to go to that game,
I would be scared.
and it's super sad because it kind of sucked out the energy going into this matchup, and it's tragic for all the families who lost their loved ones, and
Yeah, that was just such a like surprising
it was
thing.
it was
Um,
good to see like everybody come together, in
Yeah.
response to such a tragic event.
Yeah. On another note, that game, I think this game was probably, the score might not say it, but I think this was one of the most entertaining games of this slate. Just by a strategic standpoint, I think Marcus Freeman came in, um, just with a chip on his shoulder. Really, like, I don't know. Marcus Freeman just fired me up watching him coach this game against Jordan Kirby Smart. Like, he looked like he was there, like he was a man on a mission in there. He really wanted to
Hey,
get that statement win that they've been lacking, I feel like. And he definitely got that against Georgia. They came in and they just dominated all sides of the ball. It seemed like their defense was always getting in the backfield, making it really uncomfortable for Gunnar Stockton, who honestly did pretty well for his first start in that big of a situation that he was thrown into. But just Notre Dame, Riley Leonard showed up in big. I mean, I didn't expect Marcus Freeman to go for a fourth down as many times as he did, but when you have a guy like Riley Leonard, you can justify that decision making that he did. But Andrew, what were your thoughts on this game?
I mean, Charlie, this was kind of a shock to me, honestly. I thought Kirby Smart would come out better than he did. I
Mm,
think it really just came down to he got coached. Marcus Freeman, like you said, he was a man on a mission. And this is a different Notre Dame team that we've seen in past years. I mean, we've seen them dominate the regular season, but we put them in the 14 playoff and they've yet to get over that hump. It seems that Marcus Freeman has his team ready to make that jump. And like I mentioned before, the trend continued of teams like coming teams who had that first round bye coming out a little slow compared to teams
right,
who played the first round. I mean, halftime was 13-3, Fighting Irish led. But like you said, I think Notre Dame's defense was really the highlight of the night. I mean, Carson Beck being out didn't really help Georgia's offense, but all throughout the year, there's been questions about whether Georgia's offense. There's been how are they going to fare in the playoffs
right.
against a top notch defense like Notre Dame? I mean, the rushing attack and Troy, I was talking to you about this earlier. This Georgia rushing attack is different than we've seen in past years when we had the Sony Michelle's, the Nick Chubb's of the pass. I mean, they ended this game with 62 rushing yards, three fumbles, not what you needed to see. And like we said, Gunnar Stockton, I think he fared pretty well. He did what he needed to do.
Right.
But Notre Dame's defense put a lot of pressure. I think they had 9 tackles for loss. Their defensive line was just suffocating, I mean,
They were winning the
penetrating
battle in the trenches for sure.
the trenches for sure. So I think that was my main takeaway. Notre Dame's defense,
Yeah, Georgia
that's
definitely was
dominant.
put in a weird spot on offense with Gunnar Stockton coming in. But honestly, the way I looked at it, I don't think he didn't hurt him as much as
Mm-mm.
you thought he would. He honestly played a pretty solid game, and his wide receivers were not doing him any favors as they continue to drop balls. As that's been a problem all season for Georgia. But honestly, I'm very impressed with how Notre Dame came in, um, with even those like weird times going as they were supposed to play on New Year's Day, and they ended up having to play a day later due to those unforeseen circumstances. But I'm still very impressed, and I am looking forward to Penn State Notre Dame, as I think Notre Dame has a really good shot to make the national championship since the first time since playing Alabama way back when.